Hello guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. Today is another reading wrap-up video. This is my reading wrap-up for the month of May, which is super late because last week I had oral surgery. I had my wisdom teeth taken out. I had to have a little bone grafting done in there, and it freaking hurts. It was super not a fun time, and I was not feeling up to filming this video, and I'm still swollen. I still have like some chipmunk cheeks, especially over here. The only good part about that was that while I was laying around recovering, I got to read a lot of books in between napping. I also got a Kindle this month, which has been really fun and nice. Before the Kindle, I read exclusively on my phone. Like, I think I've only read maybe like 4 or 5 physical books this year out of like the 80 that I've read. Everything else has been on my phone, but that is a fuck ton of reading on your phone, and my eyes were starting to get so tired. But the convenience of it, I love reading on my phone, but it was just hurting my eyes so bad. So I decided to get a Kindle. I was gonna get the classic paper white Kindle, but my father-in-law had this Kindle Oasis that he was not using, and he let me have it. I don't know how I have gone so long without this. I used to think Kindles were like so silly, but I am so obsessed with it. I love reading on this. The Oasis has the buttons to turn the page. It makes reading so freaking lazy and easy. Like, you don't even have to move your finger to like tap the page. I hold it like this, click the button, click, click, click. It's so easy. And then you can like turn it over and it will like rotate, so you can use the side too. I freaking love it. I want to get a pop socket for it to make it just like a little bit easier to hold. But the Kindle has been amazing. I'm so excited to finally have one. I'll link the one that I have down below. Anyway, didn't mean to go off on a Kindle rant. I think I read 16 books this month, 15 or 16. It was like an okay reading month. I did have a few that were like really good, but I had a lot that were really bad too. So I started off the month with a Colleen Hoover. I read Maybe Someday. With Colleen Hoover, it's so interesting because it's like, even if you don't like the book, it was still like a really good book, and you can like appreciate so much about it. I also don't like to give too many summaries or anything about Colleen Hoover books because I feel like you should go into them blind so that you don't have anything spoiled for you. It has a trope in it that I really don't like, but I still enjoyed the book. Her books just really draw you in and make you so interested. This one is in a series. I think there's 2 other ones, and after reading this one, I had no interest whatsoever in reading the next ones in the series. I don't know. I feel like that kind of reflects how I feel about the book, where it was like, okay, I enjoyed it. I didn't love it. I didn't feel compelled to keep going with the series at all. So I still gave this one a 3 stars, probably somewhere more like a 2.5. It was just okay. Next, I read The Cheat Sheet by Sarah Adams. This one was really cute and funny. This one is about Bree and Nathan, and they have been friends since high school, I think. This is a friends to lovers, and it was ridiculous. It was so ridiculous, so cheesy, so like silly, but it was really funny and cute at the same time. Once you kind of get past the ridiculousness of the story, it was really cute. But this one also had fake dating in it, and I feel like I have just read way too many fake dating books. Like, I feel like I'm over it. Like, that trope is so overdone for me. It was still good. It was really entertaining. I remember laughing out loud. You also got both point of views in this book, which I love in a book, getting to like see from both their perspectives. It was nothing crazy outstanding. I still only rated this one a 3 out of 5, but I do recommend it. It was like a very lighthearted, like easy book to read. Next, I read my very first Mariana Zapata book. I read All Roads Lead Here. I have never read one of her books before, but I have heard, you know, through BookTube and everything, that she is like the queen of slow burn romance. I'm here for slow burn. That's fine with me. It's not my favorite. I kind of like to like get to it a little quicker, but you know, I have like nothing against it. So I went into this knowing it was going to be a slow burn, but wow, I did not know how slow of a burn it was going to be. It was slow. 450 pages before even a kiss. Like, I appreciate the character development, but 450 pages, that's longer than like the average book. Like, most books I read are somewhere around like 350 pages. So that's like 100 more pages. And that's just like dipping your toe. I wanted to read this one though because it's based in Colorado and I live in Colorado, so it's kind of fun to like read a book about where you're from, although the city that this is in is like so far away from me, but still. It's basically about a girl who like recently got out of a bad relationship and is moving back to her hometown. So she rents a long-term Airbnb, which is like a garage apartment, and the owner of that apartment is the love interest in the story, and he is super grumpy. This is a grumpy sunshine trope, which is also just another trope that I am so done with. Although I feel like it was done pretty well in this. I'm just so sick of grunty, angry, grumpy men. It's just not what I want. The story was good. I liked her backstory. I liked reading about like her previous relationship. But then after 475 pages, when you finally see them get together, there's some spice happening. She calls his thing a root. And then the book was just over for me. I was just so over it. Almost 500 pages of slow burn to get to the spice, and then she calls his thing a root, like a freaking tree root. I have never been so offended. It was like an okay book. It was fine, but it made me want to never read another Mariana Zapata book ever again. So if you have read like multiple of her books, if you've read this one, like, is this just like a bad one? Or are they all pretty similar to this? Like, is it just not for me? Like, please let me know in the comments. I gave this one a 3 out of 5 because the story was just, it was good. I had a good time reading it, but please advise about Mariana Zapata in the comments if you have advice, because I would love to know. After that, I read The Fine Print by Lauren Asher. I think I'm probably gonna have the like most unpopular opinion of the century because this book is so popular right now, and I fucking hated this book. I hated it. I don't know what else to say. I hated it. I thought it was so bad. Like I was saying before, I'm so sick of the grumpy sunshine trope and of these big, mean, grumpy men. It's just not what I want to read. And so I really need to start reading the summaries of books before I go into them, because honestly, my favorite way to go into books is to go into them completely blind, having almost no idea what they're about. But that's just not working for me anymore because I just keep reading all of these fucking grumpy sunshine, grumpy ass men. It sucks because I felt like the concept of this book was so good and I was really excited to read it, but it was just done so badly, in my opinion. I know a lot of people like this book. I'd love to hear like what you think of it if you've read it. It's got very Disneyland vibes. It's basically about like the owner guy of the Disneyland park and a girl who's an employee of the park who works there, and she like loves it. She's the sunshine and he's the big grumpy millionaire who owns the Disneyland park. It's so insta-love. It's immediate insta-love, which I don't have anything against. I think that insta-love can be done really well. I know a lot of people don't like that. I have no issues with it, but this was done so bad in my opinion. I thought it was awful. I was literally just skimming by the end because I wanted to get it over with. There was a ton of smut in this book and I couldn't even enjoy it. I didn't even like it, you know? It just like wasn't, I hated the main guy in this book. I gave this book a 1 out of 5. I will not read any more in the series, and it makes me also question if I want to read any more books by Lauren Asher either, because she has so many that are super popular. So I would love to hear your thoughts about her in the comments too, if I should read any of her other books or if I'm going to hate them as much as I hated that one. But yeah, I wish I could get the time I spent reading it back because it was not worth it to me. Next, I read Bloody Heart by Sophie Lark. This is the 4th book in her Brutal Birthright mafia romance series, which I've been slowly working my way through. I want to read every single one of her mafia books. I've said this in my previous videos too. These books are not literary masterpieces. It's a lot of just mafia and smut, and there's nothing amazing about it, but I don't know. I really like the series. So that's what to expect if you go into these books. I don't want anybody to read these off of my recommendation and be like, what? But anyway, this is the 4th one, and this was my least favorite so far. I've read 2 more since then, and this one was just not for me. It was not my favorite at all. This one is about Dante and Simone, and it is a second chance romance, but it also has one of my least favorite tropes of all times in it that just really, it can really ruin a book for me. It almost immediately will ruin a book for me. Even without that, this one just like was not my favorite. I wasn't expecting in this book there was a lot of humiliation smut, which is not my thing at all. I didn't see it coming. I wasn't expecting it. I was like, and then I moved right along. I gave it a 2 out of 5. It was just, you know. After that, I read Long Shot by Kennedy Ryan. It was so good. I was not prepared or expecting this book to be as like deep and heavy as it was. And I guess even Kennedy Ryan herself has said like on multiple occasions that a lot of people go into this book not expecting how intense it's going to be. It looks like it's going to just be a regular sports romance book, but there is so much more to it. There are huge trigger warnings for domestic violence and abuse in this book. Like if you're going to read this book, definitely go in knowing that it's going to be heavy and really intense. I thought it was going to be a basketball version of like the Briar U hockey type of books. Not at all. Totally different level. Way up here, so much better. I don't want to say too much about it because I don't want to give anything away, but this was a 5-star read for me. I gave this one a 5 out of 5. I highly recommend it. The love in this book, you could just really feel it. It was just so good. Like they were just so meant to be. The boy in this book, August, oh my God, book boyfriend goals. He was chef's kiss. Amazing. Loved him. Loved that book. Highly recommend. After that, I read Misbehaved by Charlie Rose. Okay, first of all, this was definitely a taboo book, which I don't normally like get into, aside from my mafia romance, but that's different, you know? This was a student-teacher relationship, which is not good. But if you can get past that and just appreciate the fiction of the story, this book was smut. Just like 300 pages of smut. The story was actually pretty good, but like it was definitely, if you want to read some taboo smut, this one was okay. I gave it a 3 out of 5. Then I read another sort of taboo smutty book. I read Birthday Girl by Penelope Douglas, which people rave about constantly. This is a pretty big age gap romance, and it's also like a boyfriend's dad romance. So I thought this book was okay. I did not like the main male character. I can't even remember his name. I also felt like I was rolling my eyes the entire book. Like I was just eye roll, eye roll. It just felt like there was conflict after unnecessary conflict over and over and over, like to the point where it was like so redundant. It's definitely spicy. So if you're interested in the spicy, this has got it for sure. I gave that one a 3 out of 5. It was just okay. And now thinking back, I'd probably even lower it to maybe like a 2.5. I don't know. I wasn't wowed by it like everybody else. After that, I read Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score, the one that we see everywhere constantly. This is another small town, grumpy sunshine, grumpy neighbor trope, basically. I actually like this one a lot, especially like the first half to like 3/4 of the book I really, really enjoyed. It gave me like very much Heart of Dixie vibes, like those like really close-knit like small town vibes from it. Like I really enjoyed that part about it. I liked the main character of this book too. I liked a lot about this book, but like I've said over and over in this video, I'm over these big, mean, grumpy men. The male love interest in the story, I think he's like 43 or something. Like he's a grown ass man and he was just behaving like a child. It was kind of unbelievable to read. And then the ending, I thought the ending was absolutely ridiculous, absurd. It felt so out of place in this book. If you've read this one, tell me your thoughts on the ending of it. The conflict and the major thing that happens at the end of the book, I was like, this is so out of place. How is this happening? Like it just kind of ruined the book for me. But I did really like the first half. So I don't know. I think when I finished this book, I gave it a 4 out of 5, but then I dropped it down later on to a 3 out of 5. Tell me your thoughts if you've read that one. After that, I read another one that was so freaking bad. Like so bad. I didn't even put this on my Goodreads because I was embarrassed that I read it. It's like a dirty little secret that I even read this book. It was so freaking stupid. It was called Hidden Truths. I don't even know who it was by. This one was like highly recommended in another video that I was watching. This was another mafia book. I'm into mafia books, but this one was not it. This was an arranged marriage book. It was so bad. I'm embarrassed that I read it. It also ended on a complete cliffhanger because I didn't realize when I started it that it's part of a series. And so there was absolutely no resolution to anything. It was just like, I thought there would be another chapter and the book was over. It just was an absolute cliffhanger and I'll never know what happens because I will never read the other half of it. It put me into a reading slump. I don't think I read another book for a few days after that one because it was just so bad. But then after that, I read 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. This book was a journey for me because I almost didn't finish it. It was so hard for me to get into. This book is written in the third person, which I normally hate. If I start a book and I see that it's in the third person, I will usually just not read it because I just really don't like reading from that perspective. I like to be in the heads of the characters and not like on the outside of it. But the longer I read this one, like it just made so much sense for it to be in third person, and it made the story so much better. I think after probably like 60 pages, I almost just returned it on my Libby app. I was like, I don't want to keep going. It felt like homework trying to read this book. But I'm so glad that I kept going because it was so good. This book was also a second chance romance. It's about Eva and Shane. They had a short romance while they were in high school, and then they went their separate ways. They didn't see each other for, I think it was like 15 years. They both grew up and became authors and basically wrote all of their books about each other. Oh, even talking about this book, the love, oh, the love is so good. This book was really heavy though. There was a lot of really heavy topics in this book too. Definitely check some trigger warnings before you read this one. But the character development of the story was unbelievable for like all the characters. You just love the characters so much. Oh, and you feel like you know them so well. It's like part of that third person writing. Like you could just really get to know so much about all of the characters. It was great. This was another 5 out of 5 for me this month, which I can't believe I went from almost not finishing it to giving it a 5 out of 5. It was just great. I loved it so much. After that, we became a fantasy girly. The book club that I'm in with my like sister and my friends, this was our book club pick this month that I had to read. So I read that one and then I immediately read the second one after. I know I'm late to the game on these, okay? I never thought that I would read fantasy books ever. Like I just didn't think that it was me, but here I am being a fantasy girly. Literally, I haven't read a fantasy book since I read Twilight in high school, and I don't even know if that like fully counts. I don't know. I don't even know how to give a summary about what this is about because it just sounds so stupid if I try to describe it. I was trying to describe these books to my husband and he was making fun of me so bad because if you're not reading it and you're just trying to explain it, it just doesn't come out right. It's you just have to read it. And the first one is short little one before you get into these big daddies, you know? This was sort of like a Beauty and the Beast retelling, Beauty and the Beast vibes, which I'm into because I'm fucked up. Like I love the like held captive, falling in love with your captor. It sounds like a joke, but it's not. But so this one's about Freya and Tamlin. And I don't want to say too much about it, but I do think you should read it and then tell me what you think. I liked it a lot more than I was expecting to. I think I gave this one a 4 out of 5. You have to read this one because it is the prerequisite. Gives you everything you need to know to read this one, which is just the best one ever. Oh my God. My sister has been trying to get me to read these books for years. She's letting me borrow all of them, and I've had them in my house for so long because she has been trying to get me to read them and I have been refusing. She was so right. She was always telling me how she likes to reread them over and over, and I was like, that's so weird. But now I get it. Like I feel like I could read all of these again because they're just so good. I didn't really tell you hardly anything about this one, and I can tell you even less about this because it will spoil it. It was so good. This was a masterpiece of a slow burn. This is like everything that Mariana Zapata book wasn't for me, because this is also a thick boy and it was a very, very slow burn. But like, this is how you do a slow burn right. This was so good. I want to read it again. I gave this one a 5 out of 5 easily. Like this book is nothing to me compared to this one. You know what I mean? Like it was good, but like this is the book. This is the book. And everybody said that too when I said I was reading this one. Everybody was like, we don't care about the first one, we want the second one. And yes, we do. Also, this book is so big and I read it so freaking fast because I could not put it down. My husband was so annoyed with me because I was in this book. He was talking to me, I can't hear him. I'm in this book, which I hated. I hate reading real books, it's so annoying. I haven't read this one yet, but I will soon. After that, I read Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I am a huge Emily Henry fan, and this is her newest release. I think it only just came out like last month. I was so excited for this to come out. I was so excited to read it, and it just kind of, I hate to say it, but it just didn't like live up to that Emily Henry vibe for me. It's about two people who both work in publishing, but it was also like a lot about her and her sister and like their relationship and their kind of like drama and backstory. It had really good small town vibes. Like I liked a lot of things about this book. I loved the boy in this book. Emily Henry knows how to write boys. I'll say that. She knows how to write the perfect book boyfriend, and she knows how to write banter like nobody else. She does things so well, but like for this one, it just like fell flat for me. I don't know, I didn't love it. Normally when I read her books, I just have that like 5-star vibe the whole time, but this one just wasn't. It wasn't my favorite, unfortunately. I would probably give this one like a 3.5 out of 5. After that, I read Say You Swear by Megan Brandy. This is another huge unpopular opinion because this book is so popular. People rave about it. I read this one because Caitlin B, I get so many of my book recommendations for her, and she was talking about this one nonstop about how much she loved it, so I could not wait to read it. It was so fucking bad. It was so bad. I can't understand the hype around this book. The writing of this book was bad. The dialogue, bad. The characters, bad. It's basically a love triangle book between a boy who sucks and a boy who's like the obvious choice. The main character of this book, who all of these boys are like madly in love with, you know nothing about her. She is such an empty character. There was nothing written about her personality whatsoever. Here's all these boys who are super in love with her, but why? Like they don't tell you why at all. You don't like know anything about her. Like she just kind of, I felt like this book had the potential to be so good, but it was so bad. The last 25% of this book though was wild. The crazy thing that happens was just so freaking unbelievable, so ridiculous, but it was entertaining. Even though it was so ridiculous, I was thoroughly entertained for the last quarter of the book. This was also a long book. This was like over 600 pages, I think. Even as entertaining as the last quarter of the book was, it was just bad. I would never recommend this book to anyone. Use your time on something better because this book is long and not worth it. I cannot understand the hype around this book at all. If you've read it, let me know what you think, but I thought this book was bad. And then the very last book I read this month was On the Way to You by Candy Steiner. This one was recommended to me in one of my like Instagram posts. This one was good. It was okay. It's about a girl who basically decides to go on a road trip with a stranger. Like she is moving from Alabama to Washington for school, and she like doesn't know how she's gonna get there, and she ends up like meeting somebody who's driving there right now, and they drive together. And it's basically like them getting to know each other and inevitably falling in love on the road trip across the United States. This was a really, really fast read for me. It wasn't super long. It was really easy to read through. It was definitely entertaining. Like I enjoyed it while I was reading it, but it's one of those books where as soon as I'm done, I immediately forget that it ever existed. Like it left no impression on me. I would never think about it ever again. This one's on the heavier side too. Look up some trigger warnings before you read this one because there are some deeper, heavier topics in here. I enjoyed it. I did like the characters though. It was okay. I don't know. I gave that one a 3 out of 5. Okay, that is all of the books that I read this month. My mouth freaking hurts from talking so much. But yes, thank you guys so much for watching. Please leave any book recommendations you have in the comments for me to add to my TBR. And if you've read any of the books that I talked about in this video, please leave your opinions of them in the comments. That's like my favorite thing ever. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and subscribe, and I will see you guys all in my next video.